This is WCM's Park Update, a weekly show covering the outdoor hospitality industry, hosted by Ben Quiggle and Mike Gast. During each episode, you'll hear from special guests and campground experts on topics that will help your park flourish. WCM's Park Update is a production of Woodall's Campground Magazine.
Hi, I'm Ben Quiggle, editor of Woodall's Campground Magazine, which is, whatever. 3, 2, 1. Hi, I'm Ben Quiggle, editor of Woodall's Campground Magazine, and this is another edition of WCM's Park Update, which is sponsored by Midwest Electric Products. And my guest co-host today is John DePietro, who many people will recognize from his Facebook show, RVing in New England. And it's always great to have John on. And our guest today is Brooks Anderson, the CEO and founder of Timberhut. And Brooks, I remember, just you coming into more of the outdoor sector with your, you guys have really unique cabins, wood-looking cabins. I mean, you guys do a ton of different things. I know I've seen you a couple times at the glamping show, so it's great to have you on the show. And I guess just tell us a little bit about Timberhut, when you started the business, what got you into this business, and how things are going right now, I guess.
Yeah, great. Thank you for having me on, Ben. And John, nice to meet you. Happy to do this because we love new opportunities all the time. Everybody's looking for new opportunities to excite and be prosperous with. So we're no different. So this is a great show, and you have a nice following. So happy to be a part of it.
Thank you.
So Timberhut started in 2020 in the throes of the pandemic. We were building primarily backyard accessory dwelling units, and to answer the call of the displaced executive who didn't want to be in their living room anymore, their dining room, displacing their family. They still needed a place to get out and go away from their family to conduct their work. So we did that for a couple of years and did fairly well with that, but it quickly became apparent that we needed to pivot to a commercial, more B2B type of environment. And the campground route was exactly where we were headed. Whether or not we were ready for it at the time, who knows? But we decided to go all in and basically pivot our market before we pivoted the products. We said, well, if we're building these really nice, crazy outdoor offices, can we reconfigure them and can we make them more to the liking of a commercial setting at a campground, maybe not the likes of which were already being built in terms of park model RVs, but we figured that there was a way to commercialize what we were doing. So our need for doing that stemmed on we needed to build more. We needed to build for a more consistent customer base rather than building custom for each particular. One-offs were just killing us, John, and there was no way to really monetize that. And actually, if I monetized my time involved in the actual selling and marketing of all that, we were underwater on each one. Right?
Brooks,
so
let me ask you a question on the barrier to entry into the campground industry. I know in New England, where Ben and I have met many times up in New England with the Northeast Camping Association, a lot of these campgrounds up here have been owned second and third generation, and people have had the attitude, well, that's the way we've always done it, and that's the way we're going to do it. Did you find that to be the case at all in the markets that you dealt with, or were you able to at least get an audience and someone who would listen?
Well, we were actually pulled into it a little bit more, John. At the time, we were trying to ask the right questions. We had a lot of people knocking on our doors saying, geez, we'd love to look at these cabins, but do you build park models? Well, we didn't know what a park model was, quite frankly. We
But
knew
you
we
say
could
yes anyway.
build. We knew we could build to anybody's specifications. We knew we could build to anybody's requirements. We wanted the fit and functionality of our units to be perfect for the property that they were destined for. What we didn't realize at the time is that a park model required building of a park model requires an accreditation, which we didn't have at the time. We didn't
From our
have. We said to everybody who said, "Hey, can you build park models?" We ended up saying no, but we'll learn really fast. And we learned really fast, but it was a 6 month process, actually maybe closer to 4 month from start to finish, give or take. But we went to the RVIA, did all the necessary paperwork, and then did the right inspection, built our prototype, and we were at least we were told we were one of the only companies ever to pass on the first draw. So we were excited about that. We suddenly were building and could market park models, and now we were off to the races. So our first dive into that was a Jellystone show 2 years ago, 2 Novembers ago, down in Charleston, South Carolina. And then from there, we have migrated into the glamping. So maybe not so much, there's not so much requirements for park models in the world we currently serve, but we have that capability. And really, that was a huge barrier to entry and a big hurdle to come over. It was costly and time consuming, but we did it. And it's just another feather in our cap.
Hmm.
Yeah. Here, let's get some. You have some pictures up on your website. We can show off some of your units here
Pretty
real
attractive.
quick.
Pretty attractive
Now,
unit.
everything is custom correct. So you guys, so like what you mentioned, there isn't necessarily a line of park models like if you go to Cafco or Skyline where they have a complete brand. Cafco has Fairmont, and then they have a bunch of different units underneath there. These are custom projects. So you have park owners coming to you with ideas, or do you kind of evaluate what the park is, where they want to put it, and you give them ideas?
It's a kind of a combination of both. We feel that I come from I'm more of a hobby hospitality guru. I like hospitality. I ascribe to a lot of the teachings of Will Guidara in a book that he wrote called Unreasonable Hospitality. I encourage everybody in the hospitality industry to read it. He's a restaurateur, but it is universal in the world of hospitality. So, with that in mind, our function in life is to build to the property owner's desires, but more importantly, to figure out what the demographic and needs of their guests are going to be. So, that goes well beyond the idea of just building a functional unit that can sleep 4 people, has a decent shower, and put it anywhere. We don't want to be that company. We want to go and interview the people who are going to buy these from us, the park owners, the property owners, but even if possible, interview their guests and
Yeah.
do a SWOT analysis on the property itself. And we don't want to get too far into their business model, but really that affects how we approach what we're building.
Hey, Brooks,
Yeah.
I noticed a lot of the photos here. Excuse me for 1 second. You have either flat or slightly pitched roofs. Knowing that you're building in upstate New York, where you're in close to the snow zone, my guess is that a lot of your product ships south, and it's not really a northeast-based destination.
Most of the products that you see on our on the website that Ben is showing you, they are primarily for southern customers. But that said, most of them do have snow load capacities that will meet all the local requirements. Which
Mm.
brings me to another point. We spend an extreme amount of time studying the local codes, the local building restrictions, so that we can build whatever we build for whomever. We want to be exactly right, building exactly to those codes, so that there's no question that anything that is purchased from us is going to qualify for that particular set of standards, right?
Mm.
So if
Yeah.
we're building, right now we're pitching a project up in a year-long resort up in Wyoming that is in the winter months, they're going to see 20, 30 degree below zero. So we are adding several inches of spray foam, closed cell polyurethane spray foam to the insulation that's already there. And we do most of our builds with spray foam anyway, but we, instead of 3 inches, it'll be 5 inches or whatever the code's going to be up there.
Mm.
But we want to make sure that our units are going to be correct for that area.
One of the things that
Yep.
when I was talking with the people at Crop and at Elevation, they're doing a lot of business in Canada, and I guess the specs are a little bit different with 2x4 or 2x6 or whatever, that type of thing, for insulation purposes. That's something that you also have to take into account.
Well, that's a good question, because when we started, quite frankly, I'm 25 minutes from the Canadian border right now in my office here. So Canada represents a huge market, but in the middle of COVID, I couldn't get there. So we put that market aside for a little bit, and now it's coming up as a pretty big hotspot for development of parks and glamping and landscape hotels. Beyond that, there's just a huge market for in the cottage country of Canada. So that's the Muskoka region of Ontario, which is about 3 hours north of Toronto. Lots of lakes, lots of beautiful areas up there. Cottagers up there like the idea of having a bunkie. Bunkie, for the layperson, is just simply an outbuilding that has 2 or 3 sleeping arrangements in it, maybe the water access, but it's a very simple building. But it has to be comfortable, airtight, watertight, and suitable to that property. So with that in mind, the Canadian market is huge for us. When we get into it, their building restrictions even go further from town to town instead of less. So each township, each area is going to have a different code. So it's just going to be very difficult.
And you guys
But
do
we'll do it.
this. You guys only have one manufacturing plant, correct, in New York?
Currently, yes.
Okay. Are you guys looking to expand that?
Can't announce official the official situation right now, but yes. Yeah.
Yes,
There is something in the works in the South right now that we're just about wrapping up our memorandum of understanding on. That will be announced probably early September.
For shipping, Brooks, is that an issue? Because you've got to ship them.
Yes. Our market we have more of a market in the South. We have better access to resources in the South, and when we have a presence in the South, we will save our customers thousands.
Yeah.
Thousands, yep.
Well, we're going to take a break, recognize our sponsor, and we will be back in a minute.
Campgrounds of America is the leading brand in camping, known for its 60-plus years of expertise and trusted quality. By joining the KOA family, franchisees benefit from the strong brand recognition, operational excellence, and a proven business model designed to foster growth and success. The flexible franchise options empower owners to achieve their goals while providing an exceptional camping experience for guests. To learn more about joining the KOA family of campgrounds, visit ownakoa.com.
Hi, welcome back to WCM's Park Update, and we are talking with Brooks Anderson, the CEO and founder of Timberhut. And Brooks, I guess what are you finding from consumers? I guess what, when you work with park owners, I guess, what are they telling you consumers want in these kind of units?
That's an interesting question. When we pivoted to a full commercial line of products and still keeping that custom bent on everything, our sales cycle, our opportunity pipeline exploded.
Yeah.
There were just added zeros on the opportunity pipeline. That made us really excited. We were very happy to have that. So the pipeline grows, but the sales cycle grows as well. So you go from a 2 or 3 months to a decision and signing a contract to 18 months at the drop of a hat, it seems. And I don't know if that's because we ended up giving many choices. Basically, it's a blank slate. We'll build to your specs, or it's a factor of just you're dealing with a lot more money, a bigger decision to be made. There's a lot more nuances. There's legal issues. There's liability and everything like that. So for whatever reason, we're in the middle of that. And, but we're happy to be at least battling through it. So does that answer your question somewhat?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me ask you a similar question. That's a great question, Ben, as far as what the customer wants. Since COVID, everything changed as far as who was buying quote unquote RVs, and many people that would never consider it bought them during that time period. My question is simply this. Is it a new audience coming and renting your type properties than the people that would be tenting otherwise, or would these people not even be considered campers if it didn't have sticks and bricks like you're bringing to the table?
Well, I think that's an interesting question, John. We have a number of different type of customers, but we have worked very well in the world of private equity, the real estate investment trusts who are building new parks, building new properties all around the country. The ones with the deep-pocketed, well-funded business plans that will pop up a new glamping site or landscape hotel in a previously, undiscovered area, or they will find new portfolio property, Joshua Tree or Grand Canyon or Yosemite or something like that. And the pop-up mentality of that is just that, well, for a lower cost per key, you can acquire pre-built off-site construction units like Timberhut. And with Timberhut, you can do really exactly to your park specs and be ready to market and ready to take in revenue a fraction of the time and really the cost that it would be for a full bricks and mortar resort company to come in.
I know you said on your website, I believe it says that you like to build your product so that within 2 days of its arrival on site, it can start generating revenue. Am I right?
Yeah, turnkey is pretty important to us, and it's important to the people we work with, because if you're an existing park, you're an existing property that has things going on, if you're in an active season, we can deliver and set up our units without really any disruption to your current operations. If you're stick building, you have foundation, you have pouring, you're disrupted for weeks and weeks and weeks. We want to disrupt you. We want to disrupt you for 3 days.
Much more weather dependent. The other way. Sure. The original way.
And that also speaks to the quality of our work. We build inside of a nice big heated or cooled building, depending on the season. And the environment is very nice. We have a dozen very happy carpenters working with us who are always clean, dry, well supplied, and they can do their work very consistently. So you're not dealing with inconsistent product. You're not so like that. We are very much in line with the bigger companies, the Cavcos and such.
Yeah. Plus
Well,
the labor market for workers is not an issue at all because it's coming. All you got to do is put it on some cinder blocks and hook up the plumbing.
That's right.
Right.
And quite frankly, where we are right now in Western New York, our labor market is just great for me because all I have to do is put a now hiring sign in February, and boy, the carpenters really like working indoors in February here. So
Oh, especially where you are.
exactly.
Especially where you are. People don't understand, you say New York, they think of New York City, but that upstate New York, you are pretty much in the snow belt right near Lake Erie. And
Oh, we're squarely in the snow belt. We're
yep,
5
yep,
miles south of the biggest Western New York ski resort. So
yeah, we just drove through there last week on our way. Actually, we were just up in Buffalo. We went over to Niagara Falls.
okay.
So whatever. But you're finding that people are accepting of your product and accepting of the diversity of the product, which is making it crank for you, huh?
Yeah, we're still trying to fine tune our offerings though, because there's one side of me wants to keep on offering as many choices to our customers as humanly possible, within reason. We don't want to build like a water slide in the middle of our units or a fire pole or anything like that. We want to keep it practical, but at the same time, there sometimes too many decisions puts too much responsibility on somebody who doesn't want to make those decisions. Just give me a menu, let me pick from it, and I'm sure it's great. Let's go from there.
Yep. Yep.
So I'm of the belief, and maybe wrongly so, that limits people's possibilities. But I don't. Is it more costly to educate customers in what they could have than just offering a suitable,
Understand.
well-built
Yep.
menu?
Yep.
sorry about that. I think we're having some storms here in southern Michigan, so I think I got cut off there. But I did want to touch on your work that you guys have been doing with rehabilitation centers in different
Mhm.
areas like that before the show ends. I guess can you just talk a little bit about some of the stuff you guys do to help like recovery and wellness retreats, I guess?
Well, it all started and thank you for asking that question. I love talking about this. This is the kind of the passion part of Timberhut, and if as Timberhut grows, it'll just grow our ability to function more into this world. So wellness and recovery, yeah, that's a big one. We are working right now with a gentleman in downtown Buffalo, Al Robinson, and he and I are building what is going to be essentially the first recovery campus using just the general vernacular of tiny homes. These are not tiny homes per se, but these are recovery cottages, short-term stay, inside, less than a year stay, but they will be fully
Yeah.
outfitted with the comfort and security that a standard home would have, but without all the triggering mechanisms as a typical recovery situation would have. So typical recovery from addiction and alcoholism and such requires a certain amount of time in a rehab facility, then a halfway house. And a halfway house in a rehab setting is loaded with triggering mechanisms. You have a dozen other people, or sometimes 24 other people, who you might not get along with. You have to share common space, common kitchen, common bathroom, all this other stuff with these people who are all under the same pressures that you are. And studies show that the recidivism rate for that environment, ready for this? 97%.
Wow. Obviously, it's not good.
3%, 3% make it out of there clean, like long term.
Wow. That's amazing.
So,
That's absolutely amazing.
so what we're doing with the Rebecca Rose Sobriety Centers of Western New York is building a pilot project with some public money and a lot of private money that will take these individuals and place them 2 by 2 into individual cottages, no bigger than 400 square feet, but big enough for separate sleeping areas and a common area, a little kitchenette, and a bathroom, of course. So these units will be placed in a pocket community using green space that traditionally had been slated for other urban infill properties, infill projects. So we have that land, and then starting with 5 of these units, they will surround a common building that will likely be stick built, and that's the sort of the admin slash meeting room of that whole facility. We are going off of scientifically proven studies that show that in certain environments, we can reduce that recidivism by nearly half, 50%. And we are building these with significant features in each cottage that will have traits and what I'm trying to say, elements that in turn will also help reduce recidivism and nurture that recovery. So everything from from lining the walls with a certain material that eliminates outside forces like 5G signals or electromagnetic forces from your telephone poles and your power poles, to certain lighting and colors and textures and all of that.
Well, that's
Amazing
awesome.
stuff.
As
Yeah.
we do this, we're hoping Buffalo is the first, but definitely not the last area we're going to do this in. We want to build a model that is going to be taken from town to town all over the country.
Yep. And it's certainly an issue that is not geographic, it's not demographic, it's not psychographic, it's not racial, it's all over the place.
No, and it's needed more and more because there is. So it doesn't take much to get somebody with a little bit of tendency towards addiction or a little bit of depression, or other psychological just afflictions that we all grew up with.
Yep.
But today is a little bit different.
Yep.
Yeah.
People are more
Thank you so
vulnerable.
much.
Well, that's awesome. I know you guys, I know we ran something about that in Woodalls. It's awesome that you guys are doing that. I guess, before we leave the show here, how do people get in touch with Timberhut if they have an idea or they want to do a project with you guys?
Yeah, of course. The best way is use my email, or you gotta do info@timberhut.com, INFO, or Brooks, that's my email, BROOKS, at timberhut.com. We just changed our phone number, and I believe it is 716-790-3998. And or just get on our website, timberhut.com, and you'll be able to connect through and find there's a contact page.
Yeah, and I think before the show you mentioned that you were going to be coming back out to the glamping show again, so it'll be exciting to see you there. And if anybody else is coming, maybe they can check out 1 or 2 of your units while they're there.
Yeah, maybe 3 if we're lucky. But we're slated to bring 2 units, and we'll have a fairly big presence out there this year.
Tell the salespeople to stop selling so many units so you can make the show units.
No.
Never stop selling. Never stop.
We need the cash flow.
And real quickly before we leave too, I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, Brooks. So last year was painful again, and I know you're up there in Buffalo, and I don't know if this year's going to be any better. So hopefully Josh Allen kicks things into high gear this year.
From a New England guy, it pains me to say this, but I will say it. Go Bills.
Wow, I'm glad you told me you're a New England guy now rather than in the beginning.
Well, thanks everyone for watching. Thanks, Brooks, for being on the show, and we will see you again next week.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Great to talk to you.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you for listening to WCM's Park Update, a production of Woodall's Campground Magazine. Join us for a new show each Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn for daily news and updates, and subscribe to our news feed on our website at woodallscm.com.